Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me today on That's Not Proper. Today's episode is Do You Know What Causes That? And I am your host, Corey Ascension. Some of you may or may not already know this. I am a mother to 7 children. I gave birth to all 7 of those children, and I have raised together with one man all 7 of those children. People are so weird, and maybe it's just like a mainland United States thing, but so weird when they see us all together with all of our children, especially when they were younger. And, I had one nursing and one in a shopping cart and maybe a couple trailing behind me like ducklings. And we would get the stupidest questions like, do you own a television? Or, you know how that happens, don't you? Or, are you Mormon or Catholic? And majority of the time, these questions were asked to us by complete strangers. Why would you walk up to some complete stranger, being a complete stranger, and ask these questions? And now most of the time, I think they were trying to be funny. The thing was, it really wasn't all that funny. So for future reference, all of you out there that see a mom or a father or a family, and they're a big family, instead of asking those ridiculous questions, how about go encourage them or tell them, I know that that's got to be rough sometimes. Yay for you. You're doing it. Something like that. Instead of asking them things that really are kind of invasive and some of them about their sex life. That's freaking weird. We didn't start out thinking, oh, we're going to have 7 children. In fact, we didn't really have a very specific number. I think I remember very early on hearing the number 10 and thinking, well, that's craziness. And then we ended up having 7. And at 7, I was like, oh, heck no, bro. I ain't having no more. Tie me up, shut it down. Shop's closed. This is it. When the babies started coming, we knew that our desire in having children was not to create and raise up children that remain children, and that were not tiny replicas of everybody else's kids and all the other kids that we saw in society, but we wanted better human beings. To us, if our kids were highly educated and we had a great financial status and they were all looked good and perfect and our house was perfect and all of that, it literally meant nothing at all if I hadn't taught my children kindness and empathy and compassion and actual true love without limits, love that doesn't have an agenda. If I hadn't taught them that, then everything else meant nothing. This meant doing things a lot different than anyone else around us had done things. We were already kind of viewed as an oddball family, just in the way we carried ourselves and the way we spoke and the things we allowed our children to do and not do. Sometimes we were accused of being overprotective. And to this day, especially when you watch what's going on in society now with children, I have zero regrets with regards to how protective we were of our children. On the flip side of the coin, though, there were things we let our kids do that nobody else do. Like to this day, I didn't care when my kids got tattoos, and I didn't care if they decided that they wanted to have a drink. And I don't really care about those things, within the guise of being wise and safe, because I think that we've taught them that. Be wise, be safe. But a lot of the families that we were around or friends or whatever, they did the opposite. And so we were strange. We are strange. We're still considered strange. And yes, there were times where I was not super comfortable with that, because that meant going against the grain. That meant defying authority sometimes. It meant defying things that were considered laws or that someone else had determined was morally or ethically sound. And the thing is these were my kids. These were our kids. I got to stop saying my. There was another person there, and he was very involved. And the thing is everything that they did during those years where we were responsible for them and for their actions and for who they were going to become was on us. No matter what anybody said, no matter any suggestion that was given to us, it was irrelevant because it wasn't on them. It was on me. It was on their father. So this meant that we had to decide whether or not we were going to allow tradition and society to dictate the choices that we made as a family, for our family in general or for our children individually. We had to make those decisions, and we had to look at what was going on, and we had to consider whether or not it was the best thing for them, if it was the safest thing for them, if it was the healthiest thing for them, if it was going to benefit them. And sometimes that meant doing the polar opposite of what the whole world was doing. And so the thing is, then we realized, sometimes screwing up along the way, obviously, but that also included that we had to be a team. And that meant in every aspect. And my gosh, was there a battle for that sometimes. And looking back, the battle was never worth it. There was not a time that the battle was ever worth it. And it caused a lot of issues periodically. And we went through some really crazy, rough times. But the thing is we came back to the understanding that, hey, we made this decision all these years ago to be united, to be a team, and to raise these children up to be different than everything we had seen. And that in order to do that, in order to be a benefit to our children, in order for them to be better, in order for their children to be better, and so on and so forth, we had to do this as a team. We cannot do this separate. Now, that doesn't always mean that we agreed on everything. To this day, there are things that we do not agree on greatly. But it does mean that despite the fact that we may not necessarily agree, we come together, we communicate, and we discuss what it is that needs to be done so it can be done to the benefit of the family and our children and ourselves, for the health and welfare, so that everybody is getting exactly what is best for them, not best for an individual, and not associated with some form of an agenda. I was looking at Instagram and Facebook and all the different social media platforms the other day, and I can't imagine being a young mother or a new mother in this era, I guess you could say, the social media era. I didn't have that when my kids were younger. My kids are, a lot older now. My youngest is 12, but for the most part, pretty set in how we've done things, and we don't have a whole lot of raising, in a sense, to do anymore. But social media can be a beautiful, wonderful benefit, but it also can be something that could absolutely destroy. And so when I see on social media these pictures of whatever and their family and these posts and the memes and the GIFs, whatever, there are times where I think, man, if you are trying to keep up with the Joneses, you can't. It's impossible. And not only that, I would venture to guess that there's a large portion of this stuff that is absolute BS. And again, this comes back to you and your partner, if you've got one, are the ones that are responsible for the upbringing of your children. You are the one that was given these gifts of children, because they are a gift, even when they're crazy. They're gifts. And you are responsible for their health and their welfare and their safety, and for doing what's best for them. That is your responsibility. It is not your neighbors. It is not your families. It is not your friends. And it is definitely not the girl on Instagram. The people around you have no idea what your design or path is. And whether or not you believe that there is a supreme being out there is irrelevant. You have a path and a design. I don't believe that people were put here just to be here. I believe there's a purpose. There is a reason, whatever it is. I don't know what yours is because it's not my responsibility to know. And you don't know what mine is because it is not your responsibility to know. In fact, it's not your business and it is not my business what you do or what I do. That's just how it works. And the thing is that because they have no idea what your design is, they have no idea then what your path is for your children or how you're supposed to raise your children. You have at your disposal within you the tools to find those things out. Now, asking for advice or counsel or things like that, there's nothing wrong with that. But allowing someone else to determine how you are supposed to raise these gifts that are yours, your responsibility, is unwise. And it could bring a lot of harm. And when I say harm, I don't mean like necessarily an actual physical harm. There's many different types of harm, but it could be a harm that perpetuates itself from this generation forth. Being a parent is also not a competition. It is not a competition with your co-parent. It is not a competition with your friends, family, and neighbors. There's nothing about it that is a competition. So when you make it one, or someone else makes it one, it's fake. It's not reality. Parenting is not a competition. You have a responsibility, you as an individual, or if you've got a co-parent, to raise these people to the absolute best of your ability for their benefit. It is for them. It is not for anyone else. So that means then that it doesn't matter if that child's got a bottle for a year longer than your neighbor did, or if Johnny's sucking his thumb for a little bit longer. If that's the best thing for you, do it. If it's the best thing for your child, do it. It is nobody else's business what you do, as long as you are doing what is the absolute best for your child, regardless of what society, family, and that's a big one because family likes to interject a whole heck of a lot, friends, everything. It does not matter. Do what is absolutely best for your child, because it is the one thing that can perpetuate on for so long. Teach them that society does not dictate to them how to live their lives, how to be safe, how to be healthy, how to be kind and compassionate. They have a responsibility one day to do that and to teach their children that. You have a responsibility to teach that to them so that they can go forward with those same exact things within them and teach that to the rest of society and their children and their families. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because I've screwed up. I've made erroneous errors over the years as a parent. And I'm now seeing my daughter have children, and she's raising them. And I want the best for those boys also. My fourth grandchild's on the way. And I want them to have these within themselves. And I want to support my daughter and her partner so that they too can teach their children these things, so that they can become those things. Because all this is going to do is create betterment. There's literally nothing bad that can come from finding out what is the safest and the healthiest and the least amount of harm for your child, for yourself, and for those around you. There's literally nothing that could come bad from that. And if that means going against the grain, go against the grain. That's going to be the absolute best. I just want to thank everybody for listening in today, and I encourage you to like and subscribe and review and whatnot on all your favorite social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. In addition to that, I am officially, I believe, up on almost all the podcast streaming apps that are out there now. And again, encourage you to like and subscribe, give me any feedback or reviews, and I look forward to our next episode on That's Not Proper.